Hey, it's Andre here. I want to make a quick note about this onChange event. Let's demystify some of the code here. Now, the first thing I want to point out is this onChange, remember, is in JSX. It's not actual HTML. Remember this diagram? When the DOM changes or reacts to a user input, in our case, searching for a monster, it's going to say, hey, there's an event. Somebody has just typed in something into the input. However, what React does, remember, we don't manually touch the DOM. If that were the case, we would be using the onChange event natively in our HTML, using something like this. But because we're using JSX, and by the way, if you're not familiar with HTML events, I will link to a great resource that talks about this so you can learn more about them. But again, it's just something that the DOM gives us in order for us to interact with user events. React actually has something called synthetic events. And I do recommend that anytime you have questions throughout the course to Google things and go visit the React documentation because, well, they're the ultimate source of truth when it comes to React. Now, what are these synthetic events? If we go back to our diagram, when a DOM event happens because let's say a user clicks or types something in an input, the DOM onChange event is going to say, hey, something changed. Now, React intercepts that and says, oh, something has changed. Let me go tell my React app that something's happened. And this is what a synthetic event is. A synthetic event is kind of like a fake event that we pretend is a DOM event, but it's something that, well, our React robot is telling us, saying, hey, there was an event on the DOM. What should we do? And this is our synthetic event. You see here that it's camel cased. So it's not actual HTML, but a synthetic event onChange that we use to detect whenever that DOM event happens. We receive that event because something has happened, and then we update the state. Remember, state is simply something that usually changes in our app due to a user action. In our case, the search field is going to change because somebody has typed into the text box. Now, if we look at this code over here, some of you might be asking why we don't just run this function. If you look over here, all we're doing is actually defining the function and not running it. We could extract this entire piece of code and put it up here, which by the way, we will in a later video, because we're not running it here. We're just saying this is an anonymous function that gets triggered on change. And this is an important distinction here because you would never run setState in render because, well, that's going to create some errors. You can actually try it out for yourself, trying to call setState in render. Because every time you call setState, it re-renders. And every time you re-render, it's going to call setState. It's just going to create a loop. So what we're doing here is we're actually defining a function, not running it, just letting them know, hey, onChange, I want this to happen. And React internally with this synthetic event is going to say, hey, anytime onChange happens, it's going to be an event, just run this function. Now, the last part is this over here. Remember how Yihua said that this doesn't get logged right away? And that's because, once again, React is smart. We're not actually interacting with the DOM. What it's going to say is when we do setState, it's going to say, hey, ReactBot, we have some updates that we want to make to the DOM. Can you do it for us? And our little robot is going to say, yeah, I can do it. But you know what? I know when the best time to do that is. I know when to do it. Just let me handle it. I'll take care of it. So it actually doesn't happen right away. What it does is essentially it schedules and batches work. So if there may be multiple updates that need to be done, then it can actually optimize that for us. And that's why React is good, right? Because it figures out for us the best time and the best way to update the DOM. We just tell it that we want an update. It's declarative. But we leave that internal working to this little smart React bot that's constantly improving with new updates so that we don't have to worry ourselves with the DOM. And that's it. Let's go to the next video.